We talked a little bit already about the low ratings with the Olympics and all the things they're dealing with. Also, U.S. isn't exactly crushing it yet, going days into the games without winning a gold medal. But to make matters worse, athletes are complaining about what happens if you do wind up in COVID quarantine over there. And Polish speed skater Natalia Mezluska says her heart can't take it. Russian biathlete Valeria Vastanovtseva complained about being gaunt and pale, says she cries every day. They're in isolation, incoherent testing protocols, and the food is flat out awful, they said. We have a picture of it. Some unidentified meat, some just plain pasta, an orange sauce, and this is breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Sorry, but first off, a couple things. Don't they have to know that this is just a bad look? Like, I thought
Nobody ever cared. Sochi, they were sleeping on cardboard beds.
All right, couple things. Crying alone. Do people really do that?
Yes.
They do. They sit. I mean, I get like seeing Old Yeller or Brian's song, or hearing some bad news about an uncle that passed away and didn't leave you anything. But when people do that thing where they go, I cried every day, I would sit on my bed and I would weep open. I'm like, you really?
Well, do you think they need to gather an audience first?
I feel like, you get motivated to cry. Mm-hmm. Something's upsetting.
Well, you're basically in jail.
Yeah, but at a certain point,
most exciting.
All you're doing is dehydrating your face.
That's true.
At a certain
you
point.
Need that.
And also, I feel like a speed skater would have a little more intestinal fortitude. That's a tough. Mm-hmm. That's a tough gig.
So that should show you how bad the conditions are.
Yeah, but all right, she sits and cries.
Well, I'm glad they said that because. Coincidentally, the food has gotten much better since this tweet went out. Now they're getting some salmon and some fresh vegetables and stuff. But it's a tough and actually, Brian, you might have watched a doc on this. You think, why do they keep picking these countries? And it sounds like
it was a real sport, was it?
Yeah, it is such sketchy, under the table shit.
Probably the most corrupt organization in all of sports.
Yeah,
professional and
the IOC.
Yeah, anything where there's buku bucks and it's international always turns into a shit show.
Yeah, it's happening again to an extent. But we talked about this a while ago and I hadn't brought it back up because we really didn't have any new information. Well, unfortunately we do. Remember when we talked about Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai? Shuai. She had made this, let me just backtrack. She basically went on Twitter and accused the former vice premier of sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. That tweet was deleted. She disappeared for weeks. Yes, nobody could find her. Nobody knew where she was. She has reemerged. She's taken it all back. She said it never happened. And she announced her retirement from the sport. So she disappeared for a while. She's 36, and a French newspaper just interviewed her, and this is her first time announcing that she was wrong. It never happened to a Western publication like a French newspaper, and she's retracted all of her earlier comments, and all of the statements she's made have all been prepared and read. Well,
then here's my whole thing about I said this guy raped me, but I had a chance to think about it, and it never happened. My feeling is like, oh, well, we're not done with you. You now accuse this guy of rape, so we got to punish you, which might get you to change your story back again.
I get that, but I'm seeing this from a different angle. Like,
well, she was coerced, obviously. Yeah. I'm just saying it is interesting that we go, all right, well, now he didn't rape her and we can move on with our lives. Yeah, we get it. China bad. Don't get why it's such a, oh, God.
Well, by the way, I was going to say, but earlier, it was the food thing. I don't understand, like, they're in China. So when you be like, with the food, sorry to go back, just say, hey, just go out and like go to Panda Express.
That's where that chain that they started their first franchise in China. Yeah.
Great Chinese food.
I don't know if I always hear super authentic Chinese food is not our version, our sort of corn syrupy version
Let
of
me
Chinese
ask you a question.
food.
Have you ever gone with your Asian friends to dim sum in Alhambra on a weekend or Monterey Park?
Many times.
Okay, so you know it's not Panda Express. I've had chicken feet. I've had all kinds of things that you wouldn't normally get at a Chinese restaurant.
Interesting. Oh, and why wouldn't they give? Okay, here's something interesting. I wonder if they're removing some of the competition for some of the Chinese athletes. Like you just take the fastest speed skater and just go, oh, you're running a temperature, sweetie.
Interesting.
We got to quarantine you.
Very interesting.
Ugh, it's all a mess.
John,
I can tell you a quick story.
Please.
A friend of mine's a famous artist, and I said, "Do you think China's corrupt?" He goes, "What are you kidding?" He wanted to donate a statue to China, and they wanted it for free for a park, and they said, "Okay, you have to pay us like $300,000."
Wow.
He goes, "No, I'm giving it to you for free." And then one time, he made a deal where he's going to sell his art in China, and he said to his lawyer, "Did you read the deal you made?" He goes, "I don't make any money. They get 80%, and then they get 100% of all the money."
Yeah.
Sold.
And so the guy from China, he goes, "I'm not signing this deal. I don't make any money." He goes, "Fuck you." And the guy goes, "You're a very smart man."
Oh, wow.
And he just left the room.
Brian, did you have a question?
John gave me an idea, which then I had a second idea, which nullified it. But my first thought was, what is the American version of P.F. Chang's or Panda Express that exists in other countries? Like, what's their bastardized idea of American food? Then I realized, American companies like Taco Bell and McDonald's are so ubiquitous. That is our export. That is just American food.
But I can answer that more specifically.
Oh, please, yeah.
Is it Japan or China? I think it's Japan. KFC is insanely popular, and it is on back order for Christmas, like your Christmas
Really?
dinner. Yes. So KFC, I think, would be our major export.
So yeah, I don't know if we have a Panda Express bastardized version that exists. I think it's just the KFCs of the world and the McDonald's. Is,
But you do get some crazy ass options at
That's
McDonald's
true.
aund the
That
world.
is true.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's
You
not
want
what
some
you're.
squid ink on your fries?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
no.
there's like
They're
curry
country
patties
specific.
or croquettes or hummus. Depends where you go.
You have beer in Europe.
Spaghetti sauce.
We're not going to rest until everyone is fat.
Correct.
Like we have childhood morbid obesity over here, but we're going to export it to Japan and China and Europe.
Yeah.
Like we're going to. It's kind of a decent strategy because in case a war breaks out, everyone's going to be equally unable to run up
winded.
the hill and winded and sucking off an inhaler. Mm-hmm. Yeah, smart.
Yeah, we're crazy like a fox. Well, I know we already touched on this, but I'll just give you a couple of beats that we hadn't talked about. So Joe Rogan, we get it, but there is a new company, or at least new to me and probably a lot of other people, called Rumble, that is, I guess, more of a platform for right-wing hosts. They have Dan Bongino, Dinesh D'Souza, Steve Bannon, and they formally invited Joe Rogan on a tweet saying, "We'll give you $100 million if you just want to drop Spotify and come over here." And they said this is a totally legit offer.
You know, there's a couple things, and I say it all the time because I was just seeing. So it was GoFundMe. Somebody started a GoFundMe page to support the Canadian truckers. And they got to like $8 million. And then GoFundMe said, we're not going to give the money to the truckers. First, they said something really stupid, which is, we're just going to give it to our own charities, like
That's
Black Lives
illegal.
Matters
You
and
can't do
stuff.
that.
And everyone went, you can't, look, you can
That's
give it,
misappropriating
back
funds.
to people who
Yeah.
gave it to you. So they go, okay, we're not going to give the money to the truckers. So says GoFundMe. Now comes some, and I'll screw up the name, but come get some, the Christian crowd raising. They come in, and now they've raised $5 million on the conservative Christian, whatever. And here's what I'm saying. All this stuff, whether it's, cancel this and cancel that, or pull this guy off the internet, or shut his Twitter down. All you're doing, or boycott Chick-fil-A. You're just creating other platforms and longer lines and other businesses.
Avoid.
You're just the best thing, so it's like GoFundMe, okay, they're progressive. Fine. So as a progressive platform, you'd sure hate to have the conservative Christian platform get any traction, but you just gave them traction because you announced that you're shutting down. You're not going to give the money to truckers. And then this pops up.
You created a cause.
Right. You're creating all these alternative platforms and places and podcasts and stuff because you're trying to shut everyone the fuck down. It's going to well, the same thing with Rogan. Rogan's got, Neil Young. You just gave Rogan $75 million worth of advertising in the last 9 days. Right. Like you're creating this.
Yeah.
I don't get why they don't get the strategy of that.
You're absolutely right. There's a meme that reminds me of, and I'm not comparing one to the other, but you'll get why I'm bringing it up. There's a meme that basically when you're talking about, your allies or like a well-meaning person and you tell them to go fuck themselves, the meme is that's how supervillains are made. Mm-hmm. It's like get along. And,
The Incredibles.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Buddy.
it's like people don't just go away because you wish them to go away. They'll pop up somewhere else, and they'll also hate you for it.
Yes.
So to me, the other problem is like they go, you can't have the KKK and the Nazis on Twitter and saying what they're talking and meeting. And my point of view is, of course, they're horrible, but you don't want them to go underground. They're idiots. You want them to be on the Twitter and this and saying everything so you can see where they are and you know where they are and what they're going to do.
Let them
If they
expose
go
themselves.
underground, now you got to spend way more money and time and effort to find out when they're going to blow up a building or kill someone. You know what I mean?
Listen, it's like the mob. If they want to write checks and there's a paper trail, let them do it. But we're forcing them to pay all in cash, and now we can't trace it.
Yeah.
I agree with John. Let's have the paper trail.
Yeah. So this story's maybe 5-6 days old, but I've been meaning to get to it, and I really wanted, because we hadn't talked about it. I didn't know if you knew about it. In Koreatown here in Los Angeles, there have been these mysterious boulders that have been showing up on the sidewalks.
I saw this.
And I think we have the picture. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I resent it today. But there's these really big mystery boulders that showed up where an encampment used to be. And
I have.
now you're putting it together.
Architecture.
Right.
So yeah, exactly. So the neighborhood's all for it. Somebody saw some truck in the middle of the night start placing them. The neighbors in the neighborhood in Koreatown is asking the government here to please leave them there. And of course they won't. They said they're going to come pick them up. But this
is at the speed with which they actually clean out the encampments. It takes forever.
Well, this isn't the first time this has happened, because apparently in 2020, residents lined South Robertson underpass with boulders, and the city made them remove those too. But again, the people in the neighborhood are like, please, we don't know who did it, but just leave them where they are.
I think the South Robertson overpass, if I'm imagining it correctly, is the 10 freeway, and that's right next to a school. So you can see how that would be problematic. It's like a middle school there.
The boulders or the homeless, though.
No, the homeless.
Oh yeah, well, until some students,
the kids can walk around the boulders.
Some students from the University of Wisconsin come by and declare the boulders racist,
can't do that.
which is a story from 6 months ago.
Those boulders are in front of the locked fence. It looks like they're trying to block people going into that fence.
They're trying to block the encampment. But look, here's essentially what the boulders are, as best I can tell. They are, when people put those steel bumps on the side of the bench or the curb or the rail going down because they don't want skateboarders out doing grinding on it. This is essentially what the boulders are. But also, listen, how long would you live in a place where there were homeless encampments nearby, next door, in front of your house? Or like at some point where you just went, I must go out and take the law into my own hands, essentially. I cannot, if the city is not going to do anything about this, and it's been 4 years, at some point, we're just going to have to do something. They're not doing anything.
You're right. And this isn't just here. I came across this sign that a friend sent to me. This is from, I believe, Ontario. It's definitely Canada. And there are signs that say, I support my neighbors in tents, no encampment evictions.
Right.
Now, that's not from here, but these are real signs.
They misspelled neighbors.
Neighbors.
Who's done less for what group? the homeless advocates for the homeless or Al Sharpton for the black community? Which one of these fucking grifters has done less for the people they somehow represent? And by the way, you're a homeless advocate. You're 51. When did you become an expert in homelessness, considering this thing is 5 years old? And how did you become? I'm tired of all the self-anointed.
Right.
I speak for. I'm an advocate. And by the way, your advocacy is basically let them OD on fentanyl on the street.
Yes.
You're an advocate. What if you're okay? Bob Barker. He loves dogs. He wants to help dogs. He's an advocate for dogs.
No.
Would he go, let the dog OD on the street in its own filth? Or
Snip
would he
'em.
go, let's do something for these dogs?
No, you're right. And I've been saying that for so long. And Dr. Drew used to say it until, they kicked him off the board or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But saying you support an encampment in my experience and what I see in LA, that is not humane. I walk every day. I see the way these people are living under the 101. It's not a humane way to live. Why would that be the best way to help that person?
Yeah, but the face of homelessness is not just the person with mental illness or the drug addicted junkie, but the mother of three who's literally laid off at the bookbindery and now has to.
The bookbindery.
It's like you're going to explain to us what the face of homelessness is. Let me just explain something. If you've never seen it, then it doesn't exist. This thing is like, have you ever passed a group of homeless people and seen a sober, proud mother of three going, let's go to the river and bathe? No, it doesn't happen because that woman, she lands on a sofa somewhere. She has family. All these people, look, it's all drugs and mental illness because they've worn out all their safety nets. There is no moving back home. There's no living in our friend's guest house. It's all gone because the last time they did it, they stole a bunch of.
They burned that bridge.
They burned all the bridges are burned. And when you're the mother of three, you still have a bunch of bridges intact. You get to go somewhere. You have friends. You have relationships. You can go. You can couch surf.
And that's
by
exactly.
the way, it should be sofa surf. It's got the
right
S
there.
right there.
The alliteration.
Yes.
And we've talked about that too. Mental illness and mental health is like really sexy right now. We're allowed to talk about it.
This is our time.
Crow about it. By all means, help people with mental illness or addiction.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. How is it sexy?
I know that word is the worst. It's like
If
Brian's.
you walk by a home people and go,
I do.
Get me high.
No, but it's an in topic. It's a trendy topic. It's quote unquote sexy. It's encouraged. So why aren't we encouraging it for the people who clearly need it? Need it a lot.
I have. Look, it's if you talk to anybody who isn't remotely familiar with that population, and you go, how many of these people are either on drugs or mentally ill or both? They go 100%. Because the ones that aren't go get the free housing. They avail themselves of the services. If you want, I'm homeless because I physically can't pay rent. And then someone goes, well, you can go to a shelter and eat some spaghetti. It's going to be put on your tray with an ice cream scooper, but it's still spaghetti.
Something.
And then you go, I'm sober and I'm sane? Okay, I'll go over there.
It's better than the Olympic athletes get.
Right. Or would you rather just sleep on the sidewalk?
No, I would not.
So it's a group, which is there are facilities, there are programs, there are outreach and blah, blah, blah. If you do not want to be involved with any of that, it means you don't want to stop doing drugs, which I understand, but that's what it means. So de facto, everyone you pass who's living in a cardboard box is on drugs and or insane or both. There is this definition of the new phase or calling them, currently unhoused or whatever. It's all. It is no solution. There's no path to progress or solution. Look no further than no path. That we've never done it. We don't do it. Why is it getting? Then why is it worse every year? if you're doing something.
But again, mark my words, when that Summer Olympics comes around in LA, it'll suddenly, the course will correct itself. They'll all be gone. We won't know where they are, but they'll be gone.
Yes.
Sparkle.
That's
and
right.
by the way, eventually, people, if you think about, the bad guys. Now, a couple things. First off, if you're going to live on the street, you're going to need a weapon of some kind at some point to protect yourself,
It's reality.
So now you're going to have a bunch of people that are very impaired mentally and from a substance standpoint who are carrying a machete. So you're going to get a fair bit of that going on. But also, as I learned from my encounter at the Staples Center some years ago when I left what was then the Staples Center, and I walked outside, and I saw all of the folks on the land, on the sidewalk, not sidewalk, on the Staples Center land, like selling that street dogs and the beers and everything. And later on, a short period of time, I went on a boat ride with the guy who runs the Staples Center, and he's like, I'm like, we have all this going on. You walked outside, I almost tripped over a guy with a propane card. He famously pulled out his phone and showed me a picture of a giant cockroach on a grill that someone said. So I said, two things. I said to him, well, let's get rid of these people. This is your land, And he's like, go talk to the city council. He said, I don't want to get into trouble. He didn't want to get into trouble. The guy who runs the Staples Center was scared of the repercussions of telling the city council to clear off his land with all these people that were just selling food unregulated. But the other thing he said was, he goes, at the beginning, this was just sort of earnest, poor people, illegals, cooking. And
Right.
he said, that's not how it works anymore. They all meet in like Chatsworth. There's a guy in a van, gets them all loaded up. It's all women and children because somehow that's more palatable, or they don't like the optics of taking the mom. And they come and they drive out and they drop them all off. Then they have them cook. Then they collect their money. How long before shit gets organized? You know what I mean? Before the bad guys get in?
Of course.
And when you start hearing about the trains being robbed and stuff, you start going, who are these people? Well, the drug cartels are organizing these people and telling them, of course, they're going to get involved at some point. You have this small army of criminals that are just hanging out. Why not get them under one tent? Why not unionize?
You can only sell so many avocados.
Right. Right. So we're going to get into that with the homelessness too. Awesome.
That is, I can't believe there's another layer of exploitation in that hot dog story. That those women probably aren't even, they're not keeping that money.
Well, how long is a runaway going to be a prostitute before a pimp sidles up to her
Touché.
and turns her out?
Yeah.
Essentially
I don't
what's
like
going
that. Can we please?
I give up. How long?
19 months,
You
John.
know from experience.
19 months, 4 days, and 11 hours.
Well, I'd love to end on a little award show talk. I know that Brian did the Oscars. That's cute. We appreciate it. But
Some
let's-
people care.
Yeah, let's talk about the award show that really gets all the buzz, the Razzies. They always are around at this time. Bruce Willis, LeBron James, and Amy Adams are among the nominees for the 42nd Annual Razzie Awards, which honors Hollywood's worst films of 2021, at least for this year. The year's biggest stinkers, according to them, in the Worst Picture category are Diana the Musical. That's the Netflix one, not the Spencer with Kristen Stewart. Infinite, which I've never heard of.
I don't know what that is.
Karen, which I think was with...
Oh, yeah. I don't know who was in it, but it was about
Pennsyltucky from
a
Orange is the New
It was a
Black.
very quickie movie.
Yes, Space Jam, A New Legacy, How Dare You, big in our house. And The Woman in the Window, not the same as The Woman in the House across the street from the Girl in the Window, different movie. Actors receiving nods from their performances include Scott Eastwood, LeBron James, Mark Wahlberg, Amy Adams, Megan Fox, and Ruby Rose. But one actor will absolutely win. That is Bruce Willis, because he received all the nominations in a category specifically for him. It's called Worst Performance by Bruce Willis in a 2021 movie. It includes all 8 movies the actor made in 2021. 7 were direct to video.
He's quietly churning out Nicolas Cage level movies.
Had no idea.
movies?
8. And 7 of them were direct to video. I didn't even know.
He's making the international market. He's got bills to pay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It sounds like that category's rigged.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
You got to show up, right? To show that you got a sense of humor.
Yeah, the best example is Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock,
yeah.
right? Yeah, we're at the point where you got to lean into it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like reading mean tweets.
Yeah. All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Why aren't you ever funny?
Gina Grad. That was the news with Gina Grad.
Well, the great Jon Lovitz. You can shoot him a tweet at Real Jon Lovitz. Instagram at Jon_Lovitz as well. You can go to AdamCarolla.com for all the live shows that are coming up. And we got a bunch of live shows coming up in Spokane and Tacoma, and Waukegan, Illinois, and Kansas City. So just go there and find out when we're coming to a town near you. Thanks for joining us, John.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Until next time, it's Adam Carolla, Gina Grad, Bo Bryan, and Jon Lovitz saying mahalo. Let him OD on fentanyl on the street.
Yes.
You're an advocate? What if you're, okay, Bob Barker. He loves dogs. He wants to help dogs. He's an advocate for dogs.
Yeah.
Would he go, let the dog OD on the street in its own filth? Or
Snip
would he
him.
go, let's do something
Yeah.
for these dogs?